Hello and welcome to Property Development Institute. My name's Steve Chandler and I'm a third generation Australian property developer. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for all of the comments and feedback that I got from that first video a couple of days ago. It's really thoughtful of you and I thank you very much for that. I'm absolutely humbled by some of them. Fantastic, thank you. In this video, I'm going to explain to you the 5 fundamentals of property development, because there are 5 fundamentals that you really need to know, and that's what property development is. 5 fundamentals. So I've said 5 fundamentals 3 times right now, so I hope you understand what I'm trying to say is there are only 5 fundamentals that you need to understand. It's very simple. Property development is a process. You're not born with it, you learn it. It's a learnt skill. So anything that you study, you can learn. And property development, when you think of it in the terms of only being 5 fundamentals, actually make it quite simple. A lot of people think it's exceptionally complex, and look, like everything, there's a lot to it, but there's only 5 fundamentals. And as you learn each one of those fundamentals, each one interrelates back into the other, and it helps you understand more and more about the other fundamentals that you may have recently learnt about. So I really hope that I'm able to teach you those 5 fundamentals, what they are, and a little bit about them. So in the past, there are many people who say to me, Steve, I can't develop. I don't know how to be a property developer. I really want to be, but I don't know how. Or the other saying or the question that I often get is, how do you develop when you haven't got any money? And people will say to me regularly, I haven't got any money, how can I be a property developer? Those 2 things, lack of knowledge and lack of funds, stop people from becoming property developers. And property development is such an exciting and rewarding career to have for 2 things that are really simple to deal with. For starters, learning about property development. It's just a process. And in this program that I've created called Property Development Pentagon, we talk about and teach you about the 5 fundamentals. They're very simple things to get your head around, and I'm going to draw them up on the wall here behind me in just a moment. Now, those 5 fundamentals are the building blocks of property development. Then we look at the finance, the money. I haven't got any money. I can't develop. I haven't got any money. Now, in my last video, I told you how you can actually acquire sites without having any money. So those things that people say are really not relevant. You can develop without money. You can acquire property without money. There's all sorts of things that you can do to get a property development project started. So if you're sitting there watching this video and saying, that's me, I don't know how, and I've got no money, but I want to be a property developer, well, why not? Why can't you be? I can at least help you with that first part, which is learning about property development. Anyway, I was exactly the same. I knew nothing about property development. My dad was a property developer, but when I started my career, what was I? I was a high school dropout. So dropped out of school, started an apprenticeship in carpentry, and started to build a career in the building industry. But after a short period of time, I found out that I couldn't make the big money simply by working for someone. So it took me a little while, but eventually I bought an apartment, I renovated it, and then I sold it. In just over a year, I made over 30%. So in that period of time, I actually more than doubled what my income was for that year, just by renovating an apartment. So what did I do then? I did a house, 50%. And then I did another and another and another. I've made millions of dollars out of buying, renovating and selling homes. That's simple. Almost anyone can do that, and that is property development at a fundamental small scale, but still highly profitable. So then my career changed and I came out of building and went into property development and started making millions and millions of dollars for my large property development employers. That was simply amazing. The amount of money that can be made out of those projects is truly staggering. But you don't have to start there. Start small and grow. Build your wealth, build your developments, build small. You can start with a duplex, a villa development, half a dozen units, 10 units, 20 units, 50 units, and go bigger and bigger and bigger over time. But if you start small with the fundamentals, knowing the fundamentals of development, then it'll make it easy for you. After my career in the large corporate developers in Australia, I started my own company, and I then started one of my own projects, a much larger project, and there was going to be a lot of money involved in that one when it was finished, until of course the GFC came along, and to this day I still suffer, at least in my head, about what could have been. I've made a lot of mistakes, and one of the things that I brought out of that is that I don't want anyone who's seriously wanting to become a property developer to ever go through what I did. So what did I do? What I did, I made a decision. I made a decision that I didn't want anyone to suffer anything like what I had been through. I wrote a book, Property Development for Beginners, which basically says what not to do, takes you through that process and just gives you advice all the way through. I started lecturing at university and I started doing property development training all throughout Australia for Australia's property industry peak body. And in creating all of the information that I did and sharing what I have with so many people, I decided to create something very special for people starting in the property development industry, the Property Development Pentagon. The Property Development Pentagon contains the 5 fundamentals that I've been talking about. So let me draw those 5 fundamentals on the wall for you. First fundamental is acquisition. Now, I provided some detailed information about the acquisition process in my last video. The next fundamental is feasibility. To know whether or not your property development project is going to be viable. The third fundamental is authorities. If you don't obtain an approval for your development, you don't have a development. You may have a site and it might be viable if you had an approval from the authorities, but if you don't have that approval, there's no point having either of the previous fundamentals. The next fundamental is revenue. If you don't have a return from your property development, all you have is costs. So revenue is the money that's coming in to you and how you structure getting the most amount of money you can out of your property development. The fifth fundamental is delivery. Delivery is creation of the built form. It's the design work that's necessary, the construction work, and all those things that are required to deliver a property for you to be able to sell or lease to your tenants. Together, these 5 fundamentals with the program I've created are the property development pentagon. Well, over the past 30 years, I've experienced a lot of things, met a lot of people, and I still keep coming back to those 2 key problems that people talk about. 1, I don't have any money, and 2, I don't know anything about property development. Well, I'd just like to tell you about one particular gentleman that I know. He's the richest gentleman that I know, and he's an Australian property development billionaire. This gentleman has made so much money out of property development, it's absolutely amazing. And to this day, a lot of the property developments that he does not own the land. He does a lot of property development with joint ventures and with development agreements. He's acquired a lot of land through option agreements, and he has also owned land outright. But I can tell you with absolute certainty that he's made a lot of money through development agreements and joint ventures. So if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I haven't got any money, I can't do it, well, there's a gentleman who's become a billionaire through property development, where a lot of that money has been through properties that he's developed which he's never owned. So anything is possible, and it's possible for you. That leaves us with the question of how can you be a property developer? Well, that's simple, really. It's the property development pentagon, where I take you through those 5 fundamentals of property development: acquisition, feasibility, authorities, revenue, and delivery. Learning how to be a property developer. Not just to become a property developer, but to actually be a property developer. Well, keep in touch. Let me know what you think. Send me some more of the feedback, just like you did the other day from my first video. In another couple of days' time, I'll send you another video with a little bit more information in it. I hope you've enjoyed today. I will speak to you again in the very near future. Steve Chandler, thank you for listening.